We all feel it. So much is changing. The way we think, the way we work, the way we pay attention. That's why I'm teaching 3 live classes this November. How to build an idea that holds weight. How to build a career when the job market no longer makes sense. And how to design your information diet so you don't go insane. 1 hour each, offering real tools as we learn by doing. Join me. Let's dig deep and find new responses to this world we're living in. See show notes for details.
Hello there. It would have been great if I had released this yesterday for the sake of consistency, but I did not. Regardless, there's a change to the schedule, and I'm going to tell you about it today. So what I set out to do at the end of August, I said every weekday in September and October, I'm going to spend 4 hours on my personal writing and 4 hours on job search, AI consultancy, those types of things. And I did. And I did more than that. I started publishing in October, and every day in October, every weekday, I published on Substack and the podcast, a combination of short thought pieces, long thought pieces, such as Does ChatGPT Have an Unconscious? Or last week's proposal on how to stay connected as the platforms atrophy or become unethical. And then a whole bunch of daily session notes from Ruth, the world's therapist, a serialized fiction series. And that was a great experience. And I said at the end of those 2 months, I'm going to reevaluate and see where I'm at. Well, interestingly, I wasn't really thinking about it. I was just, going along. But last week had a lot of changes in it. It turned out last week I saw a coach. I haven't worked with a coach in a long time. I did one session with definitely a business marketing branding person who I really, really, really admire and is feral like me and has really done great work. And I just spent an hour with her going deep on my voice, and I'll talk about that in a sec. And then 2 job opportunities appeared last week, one in finance, one in AI. Until last week, I felt like the AI, the finance, the job search was going down in importance, and there was more traction on the writing. And that was definitely what my soul wanted. And I was figuring out how to grow. And I was about to do a series of 12 interviews. And I'm still going to do some interviews, although probably not all 12 on the podcast. And that was the kind of plan. And the whole idea about September and October was me saying, okay, I'm going to do my part. I'm going to do everything I know how to do. I'm networking and building relationships and rebuilding relationships. I'm learning a lot of things. I got certified in agent building with Mind Studio. I really understand AI strategy and implementation for SMB and mid-market firms way beyond what I knew 2 months ago. I'm really staying close to all the conversations around ethics and safety. I'm building a knowledge base there. And so as I did that, it kind of felt like it wasn't going to happen. And then all of a sudden last week, 2 things popped up. And now that those 2 things have popped up, they definitely need my time because I'm balancing here purpose and financial stability. And what I've always done since leaving finance was putting purpose first, believing that the money would come. And I think there's something to be said for that for some period of time, for some people, but it went too far. And the money didn't come. And in fact, now I understand that there are systemic issues. I think there is a spiritual process that I had to go through, and that's for real. But there are also systemic issues that make it very hard to have a sustainable income in certain fields, in particular personal growth, without kind of selling your soul or having a partner who makes enough money for you to live. It is always, of course, possible to reduce your life to very, very, very low cost. And you should know that that's what a lot of therapists do. It is a very difficult profession to make ongoing sustainable income in, and you are working so hard in and outside the therapy room. So I followed purpose, but the financial stability just wasn't there. And so now that the other pieces, such as the finance and AI pieces, are raising their head, I'm willing. And I'm doing something kind of funny. I'm playing chicken with the universe in a sense. And I'm at a deep spiritual knot around belief and faith, the belief that everything is happening for you, that life is conspiring in your favor is wonderful. But when we say that, we think that means that we're going to have connection in our lives, health, financial stability. Like we think conspiring in our favor is calling us to the external things, but there's no way that that's true. It's just not true. There are good and beautiful things, and some people do receive financial stability, health, and connection, and all the things. Or one of those things, we all get different things in our life. But if we start to say those things are the end goal, or those things are evidence of our worth in any way, or evidence of the value of our spiritual practice, or the maturity of our spiritual practice, or our evolution, or something like that, we have missed the boat. Health is the obvious one, but people endure serious health problems, nothing to do with their spiritual worth, of course. And then it's the same financially and with people. We have more control in those areas in some ways. Like as we grow in maturity, we have more mature relationships, sure. And when we work hard, we tend to earn more money. But there are unknowns in all of those areas. And I think part of what I'm here to continually, I hope I come through this with some kind of understanding, but I may not. Like the understanding might be the paradox. We cannot privilege outcome that way. We have to, because for some people, the path is being stretched. I think what I'm being called to do right now is to really internalize this and remember in my voice going forward that life is so much more than we know. It's so much more. And people are going through what they're going through, and it doesn't mean anything about their worth or their capability. Not at all. So what I'm going to be doing for the next little bit is a couple things. I'm going to be working on deepening my brand, which I'll talk about. And I'm also going to be focusing on these job opportunities. And yeah, I've played chicken with the universe. And the universe has said, hey, here are these 2 job opportunities. And I'm not going to say anything about them because they're alive in the world. But over time, maybe I'll talk about the spiritual process of this and what this feels like from the inside. Because I think it's very interesting. So let's talk about the brand a little bit. So, brand, it's like, what are you known for? How does somebody describe me when I'm not around? Oh, Alison, she, blah, 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 blah. And I really am getting clearer on what I want to do, which is help equip all of us for the future that's coming from the perspective of soul, but not just individual work, right? That like our personal work on our dreams and our feelings. It's how do we govern? How do we run the economy? How do we develop and use technology of all kinds in ways that reflect soul, which is meaning, purpose, body, nature, unconscious dreams, love, sex, like soul. Because soul is what makes life worth living. Soul is why we're here. It's more than simply the stories we've been told. And we've got a lot of smart people working on problems. And I think that we often neglect to think about the moral values. One of my favorite podcasts is Hard Fork, and Casey this week on Hard Fork gave a beautiful little monologue on, there is an option. And he was talking about Character AI having banned users 18 and under from their platform because of the serious problems that are going on with companion AI in the areas of sex and self-harm in particular. And Character AI is for kids. So they basically just killed their business model. But Casey was using this as an example that OpenAI and Meta could also be doing. There is always the option when you see that millions of people are being hurt in many ways: mania, psychosis, intimate relationships, self-harm. You can just stop selling your tool. You can say it costs $50 a month, or you can take it off the market, or you can ban minors. Like, these things are possible. Look what Australia is doing, not letting minors have YouTube and Instagram accounts. There are so many things we can do. And I think embedding soul into the conversation is a really important piece of this. And it's not dogma. Soul is not dogma. Soul is meaning. Soul is understanding that everyone's voice is important, and that the value is in coming in touch with our body, the natural world around us, our hearts, our emotions. Like, what do we really deeply believe? And how do we see things from here? There's so much I could talk about there. And we need to have these conversations. And that's what I see my voice as being around. I want to describe myself in a way that is appealing and makes people go, oh yeah, I want that. I want to hear that. I want to feel the hope. And I also don't want to fight for my space. So I'm not going to do things that are dopamine hooks. If the traction's not happening, I'm not going to fight it. I do not know where I'm going to end up. Do I think I have a contribution to make? Yes, I do. I don't know what the end game is. And this is where I have to be surrendered to whatever happens. And maybe I'll be a fractional CFO until I retire, and that's my quiet life here is my thing, and I'll continue to write. I love to speak, especially at tech conferences, finance, fintech. Would I love to speak? Absolutely. Would I love to write more? Will I write a book? Absolutely. But I don't know the outcome. And so I really resist this tagline stuff. I really don't like reducing myself or anybody else to one thing. And something that this coach helped me with was, she says, this doesn't have to be your whole thing. It isn't your whole thing, but it's enough to really help people see where you're at right now. So I'm working on that. I'm going to deepen and elevate my voice over the next little while. I think I'm going to do a weekly long form piece and podcast. And I do have some interviews that I'm taping, and that's going to be great. So I'll tell you a few of the things that I'm thinking about when I think about a tagline, for lack of a better word, a way of describing myself. One of the things is I have a new way of describing trauma that I'm liking, and that's ambient dissociation. And I think that's going to be this week's long form piece. It's the idea that dissociation is in the ethos, which is we're all dysregulated all the time. There's so much lying. There's so much confusion. Nothing makes sense. And it's we're used to it. It's ambient noise. And all these thoughts that actually don't have any ground to them. For example, there was an article, I'm trying to remember where it was, that was talking about how America is actually much more right than the Democrats have acknowledged. That seems true to me, but it doesn't matter. In this case, I'm not talking about the politics per se. It's that is accepted to be something like a statement, like a fact. And I have so many questions about that statement. And I'm not speaking politically, I'm speaking analytically. So when Americans say they lean right, what exactly do they mean? How do they understand that? How are they putting together the complex group of values and policies and people that are right versus left? And it seems incredibly obvious to me, first off, that humans don't fit into two categories. They don't exist. They're made up. And there's no possible way that 40% of the country is all blue and 40% is all red. It's just that this is the group trance that we're in. You have to choose, right? But the truth is, and I've seen some incredible posts on TikTok, Republicans say something nice about Democrats. Democrats say something nice about Republicans, and they're amazing, right? Because there's so much to admire on both sides. There really is. And again, I'm not going deep in politics on this one, so I know there's arguments about all these things. But what I'm saying is the complex set of policies on one side and the other is not something that 40% of the country on each side believes. It's way more complex than that. And I don't think that many people actually have a thought through philosophical position and then say, okay, well, I'm willing to accept this policy and this policy because I generally believe in this policy. I don't think people can articulate that, really. It's very surface level. This idea of left and right, it's made up. Our ancestors didn't have it. Like, it's like when you're in elementary school and you're told you're in yellow house and your friend's in green house. It's made up. They just put you in the houses. and in this case, you can choose. And there's some sense to it at a level, but it's very concerning when we stop there. Because what we don't ask is, what are the values beneath that? How do we get that way? What does it mean if we go this way or that way? How does this relate to how we see the world? Is this the kind of world we want our kids to grow up in? There's deeper questions beneath the philosophies that are really important. And one of the things that is like obvious about North America is how extractionist the foundation of everything is. And so if the foundation is extractionist, that's interesting, right? We have to start to get down to some of those fundamental things before staying on the top. Get down to some of these more fundamental things rather than the ambient dissociation, which is just soundbite after soundbite. And what I've noticed is people are starting to talk like this. There's so much to know, and it's so emotional that very few people are able to dive deep in these areas of technology, money, power, governance, and sex. Sex is another one, and so it's like, it's all just so goddamn distorted. It's all so distorted and disgusting, and it's all screwed up to the highest levels. Ooh. So cutting through that ambient dissociation is something. And some other sort of phrases I'm working with are aliveness is capital, taking worlds from dissociation to aliveness, building coherence between tech, money, and soul to build a future we can all enjoy, where governance meets aliveness, where tech meets aliveness, taking culture from ambient dissociation to living, cutting through ambient dissociation. Don't like the violence of that metaphor. The path from ambient dissociation to aliveness. Ambient dissociation is the map. That doesn't make sense. Aliveness is the treasure. It might make sense, I don't know. Where tech, money, and soul find aliveness. Aliveness is the future. In a tech-obsessed world, I'm banking on soul, banking on aliveness. So you can see where I'm kind of going. I don't like polarization. I don't like reductionism. I don't like being represented by a sliver of marketing. I don't like it. And yet. So, this has been the September-October experiment, faithfully sowing seeds in all the areas, personal brand and consulting and AI and finance. And the seeds have been born, and I am responding to what is next. Balancing purpose and financial need, and having made the contract with myself and the universe that I will never again sacrifice my financial stability for purpose. And that, I hear myself say that, and I am, of course, willing to sacrifice. I have sacrificed very much. I may sacrifice again, but I'm a woman on my own, and I'm 50 years old, and I'm going to take care of myself in some way. I don't know how. And I'm also trusting that it's all whole. Like, it's very easy for me to be like, what am I doing taking a job? But I'm trusting that it's all part of it, that I'm going to learn a lot in these jobs that's going to help my voice. And I'm going to meet people, and it's going to bring me into the city more often. This is good. So what did I learn over the past month of publishing? So many things. I feel unrecognizable to myself 2 months ago. I'm very much on the mend. It's been very, very good for my dignity, my self-respect to work and to work hard. there is a bit of an unconscious mystery around the daily session notes, and I will keep writing those at some point because I really wanted to do it. Like, I really wanted to do it. And then it just kind of froze. Like, it was a soul message, and I worked on it, prepared, and then it just kind of froze. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And I definitely have a place in me that's frustrated with following the unconscious, following the inner desire, because I don't know what else I have. Like, I do what I'm supposed to do, and I try to get a job, on one half of the day, and then the other half, I follow my inner intuitions and my guidance and think things through before I do them. But I don't understand why it froze. I don't know. I don't know what's happening. I have no idea. I don't know. And while this is a very painful and scary place to be, I also know that it's very good. And I have to remember this place always, because I won't always be here. But we do not have control. We do not have certainty. We do not get rewarded for being good. There are no assurances in life. And it's very important to act knowing that we don't know, knowing that it's not a given. It's not a given. And we're really sold the story that it is a given, but nothing is given. Everything is grace, everything. And some of it is taken, right? Like, some of it's not okay. Yeah. Some of what we have materially, some of the ways we behave with people, we try to take things from them. There's grace, and there's also stealing, and there's no assurances for any of it. And it's not about that. The outcome is not what it's about. All right, Rose is sleeping on her back on the couch with her legs in the air, and that is very cute. I'm going to end here. This piece is heavily edited because I meandered. Thanks for being here. I'll be back probably on Friday with a long-form piece. As always, I really like to hear your thoughts. If you have thoughts about my writing voice, if you have job thoughts, I'm always happy to hear from you and respond as best I can. Bye for now.